live from the RMU-TV studio here in the Academic Media Center. Hello and welcome to Colonial Sports Center. We are not your usual host. It is the Freshman Power Hour. My name is Brett McGulick, joined by Caden Hyde. Caden, I'm pumped to talk some ball tonight.
I'm really excited as well, Brett. I mean, for us to be up here as freshmen, it's really going to give our viewers at home a taste of who's going to be the face of CSC over the next couple of years to come.
Well, hopefully you'll be seeing us way more on your TV screens as we continue. But starting off, let's get into some more recent news as the men's basketball team finished their game earlier today against IU Indy with one hand on the Horizon League Championship, and this game had some implications. So let's see how they did. As you can see here, RMU took this one, keeping their winning ways going, 82-68 over IU Indy. You can see here, Josh Omojafo, 27 points, led the way, 10 for 12 on the field goals, and he went for 4 for 6 beyond the arc. Cam Woods also had a good game, putting up 20 points, 8 for 16 on the field goals, and 11 rebounds. But the big story here, Caden, Aval Folgaris, 14 points, 5 rebounds, which is good, but he left the game early. He left early in that second half.
Yeah, and that's just unfortunate for the Colonials, for a player who's pretty well on his way to winning Horizon League Player of the Year. You could see the play here. Folgaris trying to stop a play in transition, blocks it, but comes down awkwardly on that lower right leg. It appears to be either an ankle or a shin injury. Fortunately, the Colonials were able to hold it down without Folgaris to come away with the win, but his status is questionable for the future, especially a week from today in the Horizon League playoffs.
You're right. That's where hopefully that week bye could come in and hopefully he could get better. We did see him walking on the sideline after, but not putting much weight on that leg.
Of course, and the Colonials have fantastic depth all around. I think if they do have to play without him, they can at least have a decent shot.
You're right. I mean, let's take a look at the standings so far.
Of course, right now, I'm calling them the comeback Colonials. They started out 5-3 to begin the season. They've ended up winning 12 of their past 13. And with their only loss coming back against Wright State back in January. Right now, your Robert Morris University Colonials men's basketball team not only has a quarterfinal bye for the first time since joining the Horizon League, but they also are on top of the conference themselves. They're a half game ahead of Cleveland State, now 1.5 games ahead of Cleveland State. And the other quarter bye teams that are set in right now are Cleveland State, Youngstown State, and Purdue-Fort Wayne. Right now, the only other matchup that is set currently is Purdue-Fort Wayne against Milwaukee. The other wild card teams are going to be Wright State, Oakland, and Northern Kentucky. So these games can still all play out in a way. There's a lot of teams motioning around. We could see really any matchup possible in these quarterfinals.
You're right. Unfortunately, that's where that one hand comes in play. They still do need a little bit of help to clinch that #1 seed for sure.
Of course, and it always helps whenever you have a team that's firing on all cylinders, as the Colonials do right now.
This team is playing fantastic team basketball. I mean, when one guy goes down like Alvaro did, or about like how Folgaris did today, I mean, it's crucial that these other guys are stepping up and making the way and still getting that Colonials win. Now, moving on to women's basketball, they faced Youngstown State last night, hoping to get their first at least a 5 seed in this first round of the championship. Let's see how they did against this team. As you can see here, it was senior night for the Colonials, their last home game of the regular season. As you can see, maybe a little bit of a sad tribute here, saying our goodbyes. Well, let's get right into the action here in the first quarter. Isis Grady has it in the paint. She's going to get through 3 defenders, bully everyone, and put the Colonials within 4. Next up here, Colonials get the lead up 2. Finds Chomko, and she buries a 3. Start the counter for her. She's going to have a few tonight. We're going to be mentioning her a bunch. Going on here to the second quarter, Youngstown State is driving it, and a huge block there by Noah Given, but the Colonials are not done yet. Isis Grady holds onto it. Finds Chomko, finds Grady again. She's holding on to it, nowhere to go. Driving in here to the paint, and Grady gets another bucket, and the Colonials go up 7 on the Youngstown State Penguins. And we continue here, the Colonials going at it once again. That is Jada Lee, finds Chomko for another 3. This is an outstanding second quarter here for Chomko. She's going to continue firing. There's #1, and there is #2, her second 3 of the second quarter, and she's going to keep firing. This one is no good. A nice board by Lee, right back to Chomko on the other side, and she drains another one, and she's just going to keep firing off. Great game for her so far. And she's going to get the ball again, and she's just going to fire it, and she's going to make it 4 threes in the second quarter alone. She went 5 for 9 behind the arc tonight with a 15 total points. And the Colonials are taken away with it now, and Noah Givon is going to get in on the 3 action and join the scoring party. And the Colonials are going to drive in here once again, and that is another 3, another Colonial joining the party. And you can see on this graphic here that they were bad to start the season, but this game they were firing on all cylinders. Noah Givon is going to get it again, and she's going to have a nice midi to add to her point total. It's been a fun one here for the Colonials. Givon's going to hand it to Vuletic. She's going to move around. Nice move there by Givon for another 3, and she drains it. 76-53 for a nice win for the Colonials on a beautiful senior night.
Yeah, the 3-point performance by the Colonials last night was just incredible. For a team that is bottom of in the Horizon League in terms of 3-point percentage, for Caitlin Chomko to shoot 5 for 9, for Noah Givon to score 20 points on 5 threes as well. If this team is able to hit their threes, they can contend with anyone in the Horizon League.
You're right. It is going to be fun to. This team was projected to be last in the Horizon League, and Chandler McCabe has really turned them around. It's going to be really cool to see what they do here.
Of course, just a complete culture shift from last year, from losing 18 in a row to now being in the thick of the Horizon League playoffs and perhaps even clinching a quarterfinal bye. It's just been fantastic to see here in Moon Township.
It's been awesome for sure. Well, let's continue on. I heard you got some stats you got to show us, or some clinch scenarios you got to show us.
Of course, women's basketball, with their win against Youngstown State, is in a beautiful situation. They are in a win-in scenario to the quarterfinal. However, they do not have that path locked up just yet. There are some scenarios where they can lose and things can change. With a win against Wright State this week, RMU will clinch a quarterfinal home playoff game that will be featured in a doubleheader against men's basketball on Thursday, March 6th. Now, this game will most likely be against Detroit Mercy, who is now 1 game ahead of the pack as the 5th seed in the Horizon League. It is important to know that the Titans and the Colonials split their season series, with each time the away team coming out as the victor. With an RMU loss, the roles will pretty much be reversed. RMU will fall to the 5th seed and then will travel up to Detroit to play the Detroit Mercy Titans in a quarterfinal round on the same day as the men's basketball. Now, it's also, once again, important to know that if with an RMU loss and a Detroit Mercy loss, the Colonials will clinch the 4th seed and will still, once again, most likely play Detroit Mercy.
So, again, this was a big game and a big win for the Colonials. Chandler McCabe had something to say after this one. Let's go and see what she had to say regarding her seniors.
I, quite frankly, have not let it hit me yet. If I did, I probably would be crying. These kids mean a lot to me, every single one of them, regardless of playing time, regardless of how long they've been here, right? I've only been able to coach them for 1 season. And the fact that they bought into this program, bought into me, the staff, this university, some of them chose to come here. Like Maya, she was about to go be a doctor. She didn't have to play another year of basketball, and she's giving it everything that she has. And I could go through the line. Unfortunately, there's 10 seniors, so I don't want us here all night. But every single one of them are extremely special to me, and they're great basketball players. They are even better human beings, and I got really, really lucky and blessed to be able to coach them.
And of course, the seniors, as McCabe said, have been an integral part to the team this year. Danny Vuletic, Maya Murray, Isis Grady, all among the top scorers and top performers on this Colonials team this year.
You're right. I mean, let's see what these seniors have to go up against. Let's take a look at the current standings as we sit right now to see where these seniors might have to go. As of right now, the Colonials are sitting at the number 4 spot, and they're looking to play Detroit Mercy. And so it's going to be a big one here. The Colonials split their season series against Detroit Mercy. Detroit Mercy took the first game 66-58 back in December, while the Colonials took that second game 77-64 in January. So right now, as you say, in this current swing, the momentum is on the Colonial side here. So if this bracket stands, they could have a good chance.
Of course, like I said, as long as this Colonial team can hit their threes, if Caitlin Chomko can go out there and shoot above 50% from 3, if Noah Givon can hit her threes, it's entirely possible that this team could contend not only with Cleveland State and Purdue-Fort Wayne, but I think they could possibly have a shot at upsetting the just absolutely dominant Green Bay Phoenix.
Well, what a time it is to be alive, right? What a time it is. It's so much fun to be watching Robert Morris University basketball right now. And that's going to do it for our Robert Morris University basketball portion of this episode.
All right, now when we come back, we'll be discussing the women's hockey team, the men's hockey team, and their playoff chances and their playoff games this past weekend. Don't go anywhere.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
Wait! Not in the toilet!
No, don't do that. No.
Don't hit your brother! Oh!
Not again.
What did I tell you about playing in the mud?
Raffy, not so close to the pool. Wait!
Frankie, happy. What are you doing? We told you never to touch the gun!
I'm sorry, I didn't think it was that big of a
You
deal.
could have hurt yourself!
Safely store your guns, unload, lock, and away from ammo.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Now, the weather's getting a little bit warmer here, which means the spring sports are starting to get back into fruition. But not just yet. Men's hockey, is still fighting for a new win as they go to Air Force on Saturday for the first round of the AHA playoffs. Michael Deemer sat down for a preview of this game. Let's hear what he has to say.
The Robert Morris men's hockey team will play its playoff matchup against a very familiar opponent. The Colonials will face Air Force on Saturday in its first round of the AHA Men's Championship. The two schools faced off just this past weekend on Neville Island on Friday and Saturday. Both games were close, but it was Air Force who took care of business in both games, breaking a 2-2 tie with two quick goals in the third period in Game 1, and then winning in a shootout in Game 2. With two Falcon wins, the Colonials dropped to the 10th seed and will travel to Colorado Springs for a single game to decide who will keep their season alive and advance to the quarterfinals. As for the matchup, the Colonials are led by sophomore Walter Zacher, who led the team with 15 goals and 24 points. Zacher scored in the season finale against the Falcons. The Colonials are also led by their captains Cam Garvey and Mitch Dealstra. Dealstra was second in goals behind Zacher, netting 12 of them. Garvey scored 7 goals this season as well. But in my opinion, one of the X factors on this team that just came back at just the right time is Tanner Klimke. The sophomore came back after not playing for a month and came back just in time for the Air Force series and looked like he was back like he never left. Despite missing that much time, he still potted 8 goals this season. Earlier this season, he tore up the AHA, at one point having 4 goals and 5 assists in a 4-game stretch. He's a player to watch for Saturday's contest. As for the Falcons, they are tied for last in the conference, scoring only 2.14 goals per game. However, they are able to get pucks on net, being tied for first in total shots. The Falcons also struggle on special teams. They are also last in the AHA in power play goals, only scoring 15 with the man advantage, including 2 in their second game against the Colonials. For a potential goaltending matchup, it will be Air Force's Guy Blessing and Corey Kokendorfer for the Colonials. Blessing had a great year for the Falcons, starting 35 of the 36 games with a 2.56 GAA and a save percentage at .905. He also had 3 shutouts on the year. The freshman Kokendorfer for the Colonials has been a day 1 starter. He has 21 starts with a 2.93 GAA and a .906 save percentage, just a point above Blessing. The Colonials look for a double-digit upset for the second consecutive year, as they shocked Bentley with an overtime goal on the road by Cameron Garvey. The single game will face off at the Cadet Ice Arena in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Saturday at 7 p.m. Reporting for Colonial Sports Center, I'm Michael Deemer.
Thanks, Michael. It is going to be so much fun to watch that game on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, this men's hockey team, they've had their trials and tribulations over the season, but I think they've come to a run of form here recently, and who knows, they could be upsetting one of the better teams in the AHA.
It is really difficult to beat a team not only twice, but 3 times, so it is definitely going to be one to watch.
Of course. Now, going over to the women's hockey, unfortunately, the other RMU hockey team, their season is over. the women's hockey team fell 2-3 in a double overtime thriller against number 3 Syracuse in the first round of the AHA women's hockey playoff. Now, Syracuse Orange had beaten the Colonials, had swept the Colonials in their two-game series earlier in the season. However, in those performances, the Orange would blow out the Colonials 1-4 in 3 of the games, and in the other one 1-5. With this game being markedly different. The Colonials against the Orange allowed an average of going over to the lights. We have a attempt on a goal here, but there's a bit of a scrum. Eventually, the puck is moved out of play. After a little while, defenseman lobbing into the way to try to protect the goal. Puck goes out of play. There appears to be a bit of a scrum there between the goalie and the defenseman. Doesn't quite end up going out that way. Now here's a scoring opportunity for Syracuse. Heidi Knoll has the shot over on the edge, can't convert, gets a rebound poked away by a defenseman, and eventually frozen by Lucy Phillips in the net. So we are headed scoreless into the second period. Now here, Syracuse forward Jackson Kinzer passes it over the blue line to Heidi Knoll, who breaks the stalemate after hitting a goal onto Lucy Phillips, redeeming herself from her mishap earlier in the game. You can see her here celebrating with her teammates, giving them one step closer to moving on to the next round. Moving on to the third period, Jersey Phillips steals the puck and moves it across the blue line, passes it over to Maya Nugent, who does a spin move, passes it back over to Phillips, who scores to tie the game back up again, 1-1, just under 2 minutes into the second period, to bring this game back up to a tie. Not so easy, not such an easy win as Syracuse may have thought. Moving on again, Talia D'Elia finds number 26, Maureen Giannoni, eventually finds her for the goal. Off the side, closer towards the dot, to break the stalemate once again, to bring the Colonials up by 1 goal. See the teammates mobbing her. Is an upset in the midst. But off the face-off, the Orange get the puck, shoot, miss it, hits in the corner right by the goal line. The goal scored there by Bryn Saarella in the perfect spot to tie it up, and we are headed into overtime. So who knows? Anything can happen. A single elimination. Colonials score 1 goal, they move on. Orange score 1 goal, they move on. Fortunately, in overtime, the Syracuse Orange steal the puck, drive it down into the neutral zone, gets isolated on the wall, somehow gets it away. Then Peyton Armstrong lands a nasty move around Deke on the freshman Kearns and finds the back of the net, ending the game, and unfortunately, the Colonial season. In this game, Phillips and Giannoni score for RMU, and Knoll, Saarella, and Armstrong find the net for Syracuse as they move on to the divisional round.
Caden, we both looked at that goal pre-show, and we both said one thing. Just, ew! That was nasty. What a beautiful goal. Unfortunately, a better end to the Colonial season, but it was a fun one. They had a nice pushback, and that just proves that it's hard to beat a team 3 times. They got beaten pretty bad in those first 2 matchups, but you never know in a single elimination game like that.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of this women's hockey team for not giving up. Like I said earlier, their average margin of loss was by about 3.5 goals throughout the entire season, and for them to push it into overtime and then unfortunately losing a heartbreaker like that, it's not a loss that I personally would be mad at. They showed toughness, they showed grit, and it's something to build in for the future.
It'll be really nice to see what Logan Biddle is going to do with this team in the offseason to make him do even better. But when we come back on Colonial Sports Center, we have some lacrosse to cover, so don't go away.
The death of George Floyd, who died in police custody Monday night.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation. It's going to take more than just us, you know, as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to help us make a change, because it just can't be us.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome to Colonial Sports Center. Caden, kick us off with some lacrosse.
All right, so the men's lacrosse team this past weekend on the 22nd took on Canisius at the Joe Walton Stadium after there was a bit of a venue change, moving away from Canisius to RMU to get us another home game. The Colonials won this game 9-7. But the halftime score of 3-2 Colonials made sure this was a defensive battle, with the Colonials putting it away with 4 goals in the third quarter. David Burr scored 2 goals for the Colonials, with 7 other players each scoring 1, while Mason Wofford scored twice for the Golden Griffins, with 5 more Golden Griffins only scoring once. An important stat to look at is that the RMU Colonials absolutely dominated the face-off battle, winning 14 to the Canisius Golden Gophers only winning 5, giving their team extra offensive possessions and controlling the pace of the game.
Right, it was a good one for the Colonials. Unfortunately, couldn't win it on this one, but hopefully this could be a key to the future. It's still early in the season, so you never know, but hopefully this will be a good move going forward. Moving on here to women's lacrosse. They faced off against Mount St. Mary's the other day. The 1-3 RMU Colonials hosted against the 2-1 Mount St. Mary's yesterday afternoon in the second game of their 3-game homestand. As you can see here, unfortunately, the Colonials could not pull this one out. They had some nice flurries here. The Colonials struck early when Elena LePage buried our 4th of the season, but that lead didn't last long. The Mounties struck right back. Not much scoring happened in the second quarter, but until the second quarter, but Mount St. Mary's would open the gates with 5 straight goals. The Colonials fought back, ultimately going in to halftime trailing 7-5. Jenna Irwin and Gia Anthony would score to tie it up in the third, but the Mounties would pick it back up, and unfortunately, Colonials just couldn't pick it up again, and they fell in this one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the men's team is looking to extend their winning streak. They've currently won 2 in a row after starting 0-2, and they'll be playing against Hobart here at home this week.
You're right, and that's one more thing we have to talk about here. Nate Fetcher was named the NEC Defensive Player of the Week. The men's lax team went 2-2, and they lost their first 2, but they're on a 2-game winning streak right now. And he's had 13 saves in each of his last 2 games. He led the Colonials to an 8-7 win against St. Bonaventure on Tuesday, and led the Colonials to a 9-7 win against Canisius. He has had a 5.505 save percentage in those matchups, which is the 3rd best in the NEC, and he could be the key to the Colonials continuing this winning streak.
And as we all know, in nearly every sport, defense wins championships. You got to keep building on that. But when we come back, we'll be going over our best plays and our games to watch in the next upcoming week, so don't go anywhere.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Now, some big news coming out of the Horizon League. Northern Illinois University will be sending nearly all of their sports into the Horizon League. They were last in the Horizon League in 1997 and will officially join in July of next year. The sports that will be joining will be soccer, basketball, softball, volleyball, golf, women's track and field, and cross country. Now, a big absentee here is football, and they will not be coming because they will choose to remain in the Mountain West. And the last time that RMU and NIU played was in March 2016, and softball lost both games in the series 10-8 and 0-9.
This is big, Caden. We've seen it many of times, especially with the RMU teams bouncing up and bouncing down divisions. Usually when a team bounces down a division like that, they usually pop off pretty hard, and especially in their first season back. It's going to be very interesting to see how these Huskies do in all these different sports, and it is going to be very interesting to watch to see if they can elevate themselves in this lower division.
Of course. Now without further ado, it's everyone's favorite segment, the highlights of the week, the top 5 best plays. Kicking it off, we have women's hockey versus Syracuse. Number 5, one of the more flashier assists we've seen in a while. Maya Nugent to Jersey Phillips, taking the feed from Phillips, spinning around like a prime Pascal Siakam, finding Nugent again, hitting it right into the net to tie the game up in the second period. Let's get a rewind on that. Grabs the puck, able to masterfully hold it, bring it up in the air, send it over to Nugent in front of the net, split a defender and the goalie to add the point.
Moving on here to number 4, we're going to stick it with hockey, but we're going to go to men's versus Air Force. J.R. Armstead finds Walter Zacher, he shoots and he scores. He beats Blessing like a Red Mule, and it's 1-0 Colonials to start off in this game against Air Force. What a shot there by Zacher, and this put the Colonials up early in this game.
Now number 3, we're going over to the hottest team in Pittsburgh, some say, RMU men's basketball. DJ Smith draws the foul, just absolutely textbook, grabs it, waits for the opponent to jump, take advantage, create contact, finish through the layup, and score the and one.
Next up here, number 2, we are going to stick it with the basketball and those beautiful Bobby Moe Reds. Isis Brady is going to bully her way through everyone and put up a beautiful bucket. Colonials went down early in this game, but this started a new push for the Colonials, going down 3. Isis Brady had a beautiful night that night, and she just bullies her way for the bucket here.
Now coming up at number 1, we once again have men's basketball tonight against IU Indy. DJ Smith takes it inside after a feed out to the wing, passes it to Marion Dickerson, who has an open lane for the dunk, slamming it down to give the Colonials an early lead. And as we know, they were going to prevail in this game.
You know, we've seen all these plays, right? This is all in the past, but now it's that time of the show where we look towards the future. It's time for our games to watch, and I will kick us off. The game that I'm going with here is men's hockey versus Air Force and the first round of the playoffs. This is the 3rd straight matchup between these two teams, the first round of the AHA tournament. Air Force is going in as the 7th seed, and RMU taking the 10th seed in this one. Air Force has outscored RMU 7-5 in the last 2 matchups of the year. So these have been close games, ladies and gentlemen, and it is hard to beat a team 3 times. So don't count this RMU team out. The player I have to watch for RMU is Michael Craig. He had 2 apples in the last game against the Falcons, and he has the most assists on the team, 2nd in goals. I mean, this guy has been firing on all cylinders, and he's wearing a C as a sophomore. So Derek Schooley trusts this guy. I think we got to trust this guy too. Next up I have for the Air Force Falcons, the guy we need to watch is Chris Hedden. He scored the goal last game to send it into OT for the Falcons. Eventually they would win in the shootout, but he has 21 points, 2nd on the team, and he's tied for most goals, and he's been firing the puck in the net. 131 shots for this guy. This game is going to be a fun one.
All right, Brett, now moving on, my game of the week is women's basketball versus Wright State, the season finale. And it's just going to be a great game. RMU looking to lock up the 4th seed. Wright State looking to stay alive. Caitlin Chomko, if she goes off, could be a big for the Colonials. And for Wright State, Amaya Stanton, their leading scorer, leading rebounder, great defender. We're going to be a battle to see her going against these Colonial bigs.
Well, it's going to be a fun one, and we have some breaking news here. It is time. The Colonial Sports Center will be taking place on Wednesday next week, so set your DVRs to make sure that you watch this show Wednesday next week, 9:30 p.m. So that just means you only get 6 days free of Colonial Sports Center. We will be back here on Wednesday, and it's going to be a fun show covering basketball. It'll be a great time, Caden.
But it looks to be a great series of games this week. We have lacrosse coming in. We have hockey and basketball slowing down pretty soon. We'll be having both lacrosses really going in. It's going to be exciting here on RMU for sports.
Well, it is, and it is going to be a great week. We will see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning into the Colonial Sports Center. We'll see you soon.